unlikely allies. The Khanre's request for help in repelling the clan invasion of Luthien reached Hanse Davion on the 27th of November, 3051. This news left the Federated Commonwealth leader with three options. First, he could seize the advantage provided by Theodore's withdrawal of combined troops on the Kurita-Davion border and strike at his age-old enemy. Alternatively, he could sit back and allow the clans to overrun Luthien. This would allow his own armies to grow in strength, as mech factories in the Federated Commonwealth and the Free Worlds League produced upgraded battle mechs and power suits. This option seemed the most logical. If the Combine managed to throw the clans back, the effort would so badly weaken the dragon that Davion's forces could overrun it easily. If the Combine fell to the clans, Davion would still have an advantage. The invaders would have fought a long, bloody campaign against the Kuritas, while he would have committed only a portion of his own troops to the Lyre and Jade Falcon front. Davion could send fresh troops equipped with updated mechs against the Smoke Jaguars in this scenario. Aiding the Draconis Combine in its struggle against the clans presented a third option. As allies, the two greatest of the successor states might succeed in not only slowing the clan advance across the Inner Sphere, but in forcing the invaders back across territory they had taken. This action contained great risks for the prince. Already, separatist elements in the Isle of Skye were accusing Davion of doing too little to halt the Jade Falcon's march across the Lyran Commonwealth, committing troops to the defense of an age-old enemy, troops which he had withheld from the defense of the Steiner half of his realm, could provide a rallying point for these separatists and spark a civil war in the Federated Commonwealth. Despite this risk, Davion chose to aid the dragon. Davion apparently viewed the clans as the most dangerous threat to his realm, and saw the Combine as a valuable buffer between them and the Davion half of the Commonwealth. This decision left Davion with another dilemma. Earlier, the prince had promised Theodore that no FedCom troops would enter the Combine as long as the clans threatened the Inner Sphere. Davion's determination to keep this promise left him with only one way to aid the dragon: mercenaries. Davion approached this decision with trepidation. 23 years earlier, Coordinator Takashi Kurita had issued his now infamous Death to Mercenaries order. The order primarily targeted Wolf's Dragoons, a unit now working for the Federated Commonwealth. Hanse knew from his time on Outreach that Theodore held few of his father's views regarding hired soldiers, but no one knew how the still powerful Coordinator would react to mercenaries dropping onto Luthien, especially those employed by his lifelong enemy. Hanse Davion had little time to agonize over such decisions, however. Theodore had sent him his message from Luthien on November 22nd. If the clans held true to form, the mercenaries would have to arrive at Luthien in less than a month to do any good, and so after a brief consultation with his advisors, Davion announced his decision. "I have made the only decision I can," Hanse recorded in his journal. "I cannot allow the clans to overrun the Combine and threaten to do the same to the Federated Sons. I have dispatched my most trusted mercenary regiments. History must judge my actions." Shortly afterward, a flash message addressed to Colonel Jamie Wolfe reached Wolf's Dragoons General Headquarters on Outreach. The text of the classified message more than surprised the mercenary commander. It read, "By now I'm sure you've heard the clans plan to invade Luthien. I have decided to send troops to aid in the defense of the world, but dispatching regular troops would violate the promise I made to Theodore Kurita on Outreach. Therefore, I have a great favor to ask of you. Will you take your dragoons into the Combine to aid in the defense of Luthien? I have no moral authority to order you to do this. I know that Takashi Kurita's Death to Mercenaries order still stands. I leave the final decision to you. Do not delay in making it. I fear that, even now, we will be too late to do anything other than disturb the clans at their victory celebration." Davion also sent a similar message to Colonel Morgan Kell. Neither mercenary company refused Davion's request. Planning strategy. As the leaders of the Draconis Combine and the Federated Commonwealth marshalled their forces for the defense of Luthien, Khan Fury met with his military advisors to plan the joint clan invasion. Khan LaRue of the Nova Cats favored a surgical strike aimed at decapitating the dragon. He argued that the invasion should be concentrated around Imperial City, because capturing the city with one stroke would throw the rest of the planet's defenders into disarray. Sarkhan Worth of the Smoke Jaguars opposed limiting the invasion force's area of operations. He believed LaRue's plan would enable the Kurita defenders to draw the clan forces into ground better suited to defense rather than attack, as they'd done on Walcott. Instead, Worth suggested the invaders spread across the face of the planet. By striking vigorously at key cities and manufacturing centres and committing freebirth troops to secondary objectives, the clans could stretch the defenders to the breaking point. He said, "We are the Smoke Jaguars," Worth snarled at the Novacat leader. "We leap upon our prey, bearing him to the ground and tearing out his throat. We fear no enemy. We seek him out and kill him where he lives. We do not stand and wait for him to come to us or meet him on ground of his choosing." Khan Fury, sensing that the argument could escalate easily into a trial of grievance, stepped in and rendered a decision. Both plans had merit, and Operation Dragonslayer would implement elements of both. Capturing Imperial City would be the primary objective of the invasion. The Jaguars' Alpha Galaxy and the Novacats' Beta Galaxy would ground near the planetary capital and press the attack there. Elements of both clans would strike at secondary targets across Luthien simultaneously. Under Fury's compromise plan, maximum effort would go into capturing Imperial City and tying up the Combine's frontline units, as the secondary strikes would prevent the Combine forces from bolstering the city's defences. "We all know the tenacity with which House Kurita defends its holdings," Fury explained. "Their ancient samurai traditions make them the most clan-like of all foes that we've currently met since we began the crusade to reclaim the Inner Sphere. Therefore, we must take Luthien quickly, or the operation will bog down in guerrilla warfare." Fury knew that even if Luthien fell quickly, many of her defenders would take to the hills to wage a partisan war against the clan garrison until one force or the other was wiped out. To minimize the risk of a costly, time-consuming guerrilla war, Khan Fury ordered that as many members as possible of the ruling Kurita family be taken alive. By capturing the persons who embodied the Combine government, the Khan of the Smoke Jaguars hoped to force the bulk of that successor state to surrender. Furthermore, he knew that many of the Combine's troops would abandon their posts on other contested worlds, flocking to Luthien to avenge the defeat of their Khanrei and reclaim their capital. In turn, the collapse of organized defenses on Combine worlds would enable the Smoke Jaguars to pull ahead of the rival Wolf and Jade Falcon clans in the race to Terra. If Luthien fell, Khan Kincaid Fury believed he might even be able to force a Grand Kurultai to remove Ulrich Kerensky from the office of Il Khan and reclaim the honor for the Smoke Jaguars. As the leaders of the Jaguars and Novacats argued over invasion strategy, Theodore Kurita and his counselors debated defensive strategy. For weeks, the Khanrei and his command staff had studied ISF reports, estimating the strength of the expected clan invasion force. They studied computer simulations of the upcoming battle, and modified, added, and discarded plans, and each simulation revealed one brutal truth. Even if every Combine mech destroyed 2 clan machines before they destroyed it, Luthien would fall in as little as 8 hours. As distressing as these projections were, ISF reports from the Draconis March and the Isle of Skye proved even more alarming. Nearly 90% of the Federated Commonwealth troops that had been garrisoning border worlds had been moved, and no Combine agent had been able to discern the new location of these displaced units. Some Combine leaders needed no intelligence reports to realize the destination of those regiments. "Baka, you have doomed us all with your naive belief that Hanse Davion was anything less than a yellow bird," raved Taisei Yoshida of the First Sword of Light. "Your father would have never allowed such a thing to happen. You have weakened our defenses against our oldest enemy. He has seized that weakness, and we are now trapped, with no escape but death." For a moment, Theodore's normally icy calm wavered. His angry snarl went almost unheard beneath Yoshida's rantings. "I am not my father, Taisa. Be happy that I am not. Were he in my place, he would not wait for the Otomo to arrest you. He would kill you himself." For a moment, all eyes in the coordination center were fixed on Yoshida and the Khanrei. Then Yoshida dropped his gaze. "You're right, Khanrei. You are not your father. I apologize for the discourtesy." "There is nothing to apologize for," he replied, saving Yoshida from losing face. "How can I find fault with one whose only concern is the safety of the Combine? Let us concentrate on defeating the Smoke Jaguars, and if I am wrong, and the Federated Commonwealth troops are on the way to Luthien, they too will taste the dragon's wrath." So, in the planning stages, in the post-ramble here, we can see that both sides are pretty aware that the battle is going to be fairly short and ultimately quite brutal. We see that the Draconis Combine are painfully aware of the fact that even with all of their defences set up as optimally as they can be, the clans are still going to grind them down, and that the battle itself is only going to last a scant few hours. Whereas the clans, they have mixed views on things. Obviously, the Nova Cats have a more pragmatic, quick strike mentality, which makes sense. They obviously want to be able to very quickly capture the capital and basically force enemies to come to them, and then they can wipe them out as they come in. And the Smoke Jaguars obviously want to do a much more broad scale, we'll just fight everybody all at the same time and clearly we'll win because we're Smoke Jaguars kind of approach. Which, at this point in the narrative, the Smoke Jaguar have been doing fairly well. They've obviously taken quite a lot of territory, and to be fair to them in the standard, they have been fighting probably the most dogmatic and more difficult opponent out of the two major Inner Sphere successor states that they've currently been attacking. So, it's a good setup. I like the fact that they've at least brought in the idea of the conflict between the two different sides' leaders, as they obviously have differing views, and with it being such a high-stakes battle, you're in a situation where, any slight mistake here in terms of the strategy is going to ultimately cost the entire campaign for as little time as this one lasts. And yes, this battle is very short in terms of just when it starts and when it ends. This isn't one of those long grinding campaigns that we've seen, that you read about in other parts of the Battletech universe of like novels and the such. This thing is just short, snappy, and ultimately costs quite a few lives. So the next episode will be the actual finish of all the preparations, and just before the battle itself begins, and that's when we'll get into some of the characters, the major players involved on both sides, and then like an order of battle and stuff like that. So yeah, as always, thanks for listening. This one is obviously a bit different from Galtor. The layout of the book and the such is a little scant on actual events of the battle itself so far. It's mainly about the kind of the background players and all that, and the sort of what planning went into it, and the objectives and stuff. But still, it's quite interesting. Luthien is a very pivotal battle in the entirety of the clan invasion. So yeah, it's a good one. It's a good read, this one, if you haven't already picked it up yourself. So I'm gonna hop off now. Thanks everyone for listening, and hope you have a good week wherever you be. Bye bye.